So there is no sign of resolution. Chances are this will get worse before it gets better. And what will that look like? We have seen diplomats being expelled. We've seen visa applications being suspended, which makes you wonder, what's next? Could India and Canada weaponize trade now? Perhaps wage a trade war? Right now, there are no indications of that happening. Neither government has tried to restrict bilateral trade, but there are some changes. For instance, the import of lentils from Canada is slowing, and this could be worrying because India buys a lot of lentils from Canada. It makes up more than 50% of our imports. Last year, that was worth around $370 million. And this year, the trade was going well until July. It was up around 420% from last year, a 420% jump. But since Trudeau's comments, things are shaky. Import offers from India have fallen by 6%. Indian buyers are looking at other sources like Australia. Some say the government could consider trade restrictions, and if that happens, how will it affect Indians? Well, lentils are a staple in this part of the world. We use them to make dal. So import restrictions will affect prices. It's very simple logic. You're curbing imports from your largest source of lentils, so lentil prices will increase, and that will worry the Indian government. Food prices are already up 11% in India. Trade restrictions could push them higher. Having said that, Canada too will feel the pinch. Their farmers produce 1.5 million tons of lentils. And how much of that does India buy? Around 1/3. So if New Delhi stops buying, Canadian farmers will lose out. Again, it's simple logic, less demand, lower price. So going forward, keep an eye out for lentil prices. There are no indications of any restrictions yet, but if this controversy escalates, who knows? We can't rule out a spillover on trade, which raises an important question. What will an India-Canada trade war look like? What is at stake here? At first glance, the pie is pretty small. Bilateral trade is worth around $8 billion. That's less than 1% of India's total trade. Same with foreign investments. In 20 years, Canada has invested $3.6 billion in India. That's around 0.5% of India's total FDI. Like I said, it's a small pie. But within this trade, a few items stand out. They're very important for both sides. We mentioned lentils. Another one is potash. It's a very important fertilizer. Last year, India struck a deal to import it from Canada. It's a 3-year agreement. Under this, India would buy 1.5 million tons of potash. To give you some context, India's total import is around 4 million tons. So this trade is very important, especially after the war in Ukraine. Russia and Belarus used to be the top suppliers to India, but that supply is now shaky. And what about India's exports to Canada? These are the top 5 items: pharma products, gems and jewelry, iron and steel, electricals, and organic chemicals. There is one item missing from this list, though, arguably more important than all of this, and that's human resource. Immigrants are the backbone of Canada's labour market. They make up 90% of the job growth, 90%. In other words, if 100 jobs are created, 90 of them are done by immigrants. And within that, Indians are the largest group. Around 20% of Canada's immigrants are from India, same with students. Indian students make up 28% of all foreign students in Canada. It's a big industry there. Students bring in $16 billion to Canada. They make up 1.3% of Canada's GDP. So the commercial exchanges may not be huge, but the constituents are important, like immigrants and students for Canada and lentils and potash for India. Both countries had realized this potential, hence the talks for a free trade agreement. India has now called off those talks. And New Delhi's argument is quite simple. Terror and trade cannot go hand in hand. It's an argument that India uses with Pakistan too. Such political standoffs inevitably affect trade relations. Governments may not publicly announce restrictions or bans, but traders will look elsewhere. They will look for safer options. Same with students. New Delhi has issued an advisory for Indians in Canada. There are security concerns, and it could force a rethink in many Indian families. Of course, this is all theoretical at this point. What actually happens depends on the political leadership, especially in Canada. They can opt for mature diplomacy, or they can escalate and cause a spillover. The signs so far have not been good.